in to episode 3 of the Third and Five podcast. We're on camera for the first time. Say hello to the camera.
Hello.
You'll notice we're a man down in film, but we've got Dave Rice on the line joining us. Dave, how's it going?
Very good. Good to be tuning in. First time we've had one of us tuning in from remote. But yeah, here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it was a bit of a stressful day making sure all the technical stuff was sorted, but we got there in the end.
Hey, look at this. The Third and Five podcast has finally gotten involved in the remote world. So
I know
we're caught up. We're 2 years late, but that's fine.
I know. Thwaites, how are you going, mate? You good?
Can't complain. Spent the weekend in Minnesota, Minneapolis, went to an ice hockey game, went to the NFL game, lots of fire Zimmer banners and things around. Yeah.
So you and Dave went to a Vikings Bears game. You're wearing a Broncos shirt. What is it about getting involved with non-playoff teams?
Hey, this will all make sense to everyone in probably like half an hour. So we'll get there though. But thanks for sandbagging me early on.
We always love the idea of getting around NFL games though. You guys got to see the Vikings and the Bears play. What was it like out there?
It was cold. I think that was an understatement. It's a pretty incredible stadium. I thought probably one of the best, if not the best, I've been to here in the US. Dave, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's definitely one of those stadiums that that people, NFL fans might want to tick off. Pretty incredible atmosphere. Even for the fact that it was effectively a dead rubber. You're still in those sort of smaller cities. You can really diehard fans and guys dressed up and they still wanted to win that game. It's an NFC, it's a divisional game there, and so great experience. Enjoyed it.
I also find it funny that both teams fired their head coach and GM not long after that game as well. So
a momentous occasion for you two to attend
exactly
the final game for those two coaches. Well, let's rip straight into it with some actual teams that are bound for the playoffs that start this weekend. We're all very excited. I kind of like the first round of the playoffs because there's just always games on basically all weekend. 6 games across the weekend, starting Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and a game on Monday night. Let's start. We're going to break down every playoff game. We're going to start with the AFC though, and let's start with the Raiders and the Bengals. The Raiders sneaking in with that overtime win over the Chargers. Raiders against Joe Burrow's Bengals. Start with you, Thwaites. What are you thinking with this game?
Wouldn't it have been great if the Raiders and Chargers ended up in a tie and they just kneeled for the entire game?
I think we were all hoping for that, weren't we?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Raiders at all. But Raiders at the Bengals, it's going to be super exciting. Looking at the AFC playoffs, I think the Bengals are going to make a very deep run in the playoffs in the AFC. I really like what's going on there. I think the first victim is obviously going to be the Raiders. And I think it's probably going to be Derek Carr's last game in a Raiders uniform potentially as well. So we'll see. End of an era. Joe Burrow is outstanding. He's had some incredible games with Jamar Chase. He's got an amazing offense there. So I'm really, really excited to watch those games and follow the Bengals through the playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like Burrow's really hit some form at the right time. He's been in great form the last few games in the regular season. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the first thing that sort of sticks out to me when I was looking at these AFC games and thinking about the Raiders is, and as you mentioned, they barely scraped through. If they lost that overtime game to the Chargers, they were out. If it was a tie, then they would have joined the Chargers and the Steelers would have been out. But they're very close to being eliminated. And it probably goes to show you how good the AFC or how close it was throughout the season that they went from just scraping in to then getting the first wildcard spot. Which, when you look at the teams and you look at who divisional teams that they have to go play, you've either got Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, or Cincinnati Bengals, and the reward for the Raiders getting that first wildcard spot is, you'd argue, they get the easiest opponent. I don't necessarily think the Bengals are the weakest opponent. It's just, they're probably the least experienced when it comes to playoffs. I've got the younger team. So I think if you got to choose, for any of those wildcard teams, if they got to choose who to play, I think you'd definitely go Bengals. So I think the Raiders have done very well to get there. I'm going to join the Fates there, and I think the Bengals will be too good. I think Joe Burrow's, he's come good. He's coming off some big numbers in his last few weeks, and but I can also see it being quite an exciting game. Conditions in Ohio probably won't be great, but Derek Carr likes to air it out, and the Raiders have had some pretty great games this season. And I believe it's actually both quarterbacks' first playoff game. So Derek Carr has obviously played a lot longer than Joe Burrow, but I think my understanding is he's taken the team to the playoffs before, but then injured himself. So this will be his first playoff game, and also Joe Burrow. So be great. I think it'll be one of the better games of the weekend. But I definitely see Bengals coming out on top.
And not to jump in here, as I always do with you, Dave. But I don't know if I call the Bengals the easier one. The Raiders got pumped by the Chiefs in Las Vegas earlier on in the season. And then when we're walking out of that game that we went to, when we went and watched the Jets and the Bucs at MetLife, the Bengals had that last minute win against the Chiefs. So
and the Steelers are in the playoffs as well. And I don't think they're they're looking like they're going too far.
I don't think Ben Roethlisberger's saying you.
Well, let's start talking about this second match. The Chiefs, the Steelers going to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And Ben Roethlisberger, I think his words were basically, we're the 14th seed out of the 14 playoff teams. We don't have a chance in this game, so let's just go and have some fun. For a guy that's probably playing his last NFL games, those are not the fighting words you probably want to hear. Maybe there was a bit of sarcasm thrown in from Big Ben, but regardless, do we give the Steelers side any chance in Kansas City?
Dave, what do you think? I went first last time. You go and come in with your hard opinion on this.
I don't give them any chance. TJ Watt's going to have the greatest game the players ever had, I think, to give the Steelers any chance. I think the Chiefs win that, and they whether it's reflected on the scoreboard, but I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win. The Chiefs played the Steelers, I believe it was on Boxing Day, so less than 3 weeks ago, and it was around 36-10. It wasn't that long ago. I don't expect it to be that scoreline. It's playoff in any sport. Playoff football is completely different kettle of fish to the regular season. But I see a Chiefs win and can't see the Steelers. But as you say, like Roethlisberger playing without a care. Sometimes when you don't have that pressure on yourself and you just go out there and just sort of let the shoulders down, and maybe a few plays stick, and some Hail Marys sort of come in, or some big long plays, and then all of a sudden you put the pressure on, and there's a bit of scoreboard pressure, and the Chiefs know they're expected to win. That's probably the Steelers' best chance, but I see Chiefs coming through that.
Is there anything in Big Ben playing his last game probably that maybe gives this does that give the Steelers enough to potentially cause an upset in this?
I'm going to drop our first F-bomb of the pod. Fuck no. Absolutely not. He's like, let's just go out there and have fun. I hope having fun is throwing the ball more than you threw it last time and having more yards per attempt, because it was awful. It was one of the worst football games I've ever watched. It was, obviously there was some great defense, but Ben Roethlisberger threw it a lot for a lot of short yardage. I don't think their defense can keep it in them long enough. So I think the Chiefs win this one comfortably. Yeah,
we watched that game, the three of us at the pub in Brooklyn, I think, along with a bunch of other games. And I think Kansas City were up something like 36-0. Pittsburgh took a field goal because I think they were so determined not to get blanked, and that was basically their only chance of scoring. They looked so bad. They didn't eventually get a touchdown, but...
Yeah, you do see that in NFL a lot. Like, teams have a real pride in avoiding the donut. So, they'll take 3 points when it's clearly not going to change the result.
Yeah, well, let's wrap up the AFC with the game. I think that's probably the juiciest of the AFC games. The big Northeastern matchup between Josh Allen's Buffalo Bills and Mac Jones and Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. I think there can be arguments made for these two sides. Let's pull back to you to lead off, Thwaites. What do you make of this game?
One apiece in the regular season. We obviously had that very grindy, runny game where Mac Jones, I think, had like 4 pass attempts or whatever it was that we spoke about on the first podcast. I'm setting myself up to fail here again by going against Belichick. I don't know why I do this all the time, but honestly, I think the Bills win this one comfortably as well. The key for the Bills will just be to eliminate the Patriots run game. Josh Allen is going really well at the moment. So yeah, Bills have got this comfortably. I don't have a lot more to add about that because the key to this game would be the Patriots defense keeping the minute, and I just don't see them having.
Dave?
Yeah, I think first off, I'll probably acknowledge, I think the Patriots, for Buffalo Bills, getting the Patriots is a tricky first up assignment. I think the Patriots are probably one of the better, if not best, wildcard team in my view, in the not just the AFC, but including the NFC as well. And so it is a very tricky assignment first up. I looked at the conditions. It's real feel, -20 degrees Celsius on Saturday night in Buffalo.
Great.
I don't think it's meant to be snowing, but it's snowing like the next day or two, but there'll probably be residues of the snow. But what I do think is from that first game, it was the second game they played each other where the Patriots won and it was horrendous conditions. I think Buffalo are going to sort of learn from that and be better for it. And it's going to be similar conditions, which you'd argue sort of is a bit of a, evens up the matchup.
So I think,
and
sorry to cut you off there, Dave. I think with that first game, I think one of the big problems was not only was it cold, but it was super windy. So throwing the ball was a bigger risk. Did you say it was going to be windy as well, or is it just going to be super chilly up there?
That's a good question. I didn't look at the wind factor. I can have a quick look while we're talking. But either way, I don't think. I think Buffalo gets up, but I don't think it will be that comfortable because I think it will be a bit of a grind out. I think they will, have to stop the Patriots run game, and there's going to be no sort of hidden agenda. I don't think that's going to be, anything else that they'll be doing. That's going to be pretty clear from what we've seen already this year. That's how the Patriots are going to play. As we say, that's what's probably going to happen is he's going to throw 20 throws and have a blinder. But just looking at it, no, it doesn't look too windy.
No, it's about 15 kilometers an hour.
Sorry for turning this podcast into a weather podcast, everyone.
But yeah, I see the Bills winning. I also sort of on episode 2, I did pick that the Bills could go quite deep. So I'm not going to sort of come here and say they're going to lose first game, but I do think they've got definitely a tricky matchup. Against a team that would like the conditions they're going to be playing in. Some good games. So we're looking Bengals, Chiefs, Bills. I think.
Yeah,
pretty
pretty unanimous there.
Yeah, with the AFC. Let's switch over to the NFC now. And we'll start off with a pretty juicy one. James Thwaites has a big smile on his face as we talk about his Philadelphia Eagles going down to Tampa Bay to take on Tom Brady's Bucks.
Going down, that's kind of, you've already sort of written in the stars.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Well, Thwaites, you're wearing a Broncos jersey when your team's about to play in the playoffs. So that's probably not a great sign. But
not a great sign of his confidence.
Not a great sign of his confidence, but you maybe have a little bit more confidence than people might think.
Yeah, I okay. Stay with me on this.
Here we go.
I do think the Eagles have a chance to pull off a massive upset here. I really, really do. I think it's going to be a tighter game than most people think. What Dave and I saw when we were at MetLife when we watched the Jets play the Bucks was the Bucks giving a lot up on the ground. Hurts is back now. They've got their weapons on the ground. So I think the Eagles do take the upset here. Bucks have been great on defense. 100%. Completely agree with that. They gave up 150 yards on the ground to the Jets when they played, almost lost that game. Obviously, Tom Brady came back and had that amazing drive with 2 minutes to go. Obviously, much of that was a big run by Michael Carter. He was concussed for the rest of the game, though, so they were giving up a lot of ground yardage to a couple of old people. So, yeah, I'm going the Eagles. Yeah, I think the trend continues, and the Bucks are going out of the playoffs early.
Dave?
I'd love for that to happen.
So you'd love for the Eagles to win?
Yeah, and it's not that I'm anti Tom Brady or anti the Bucks. Like for me, like I love to see different teams make the Super Bowl. Like I don't want to see dynasties or the Bucks winning 2 in a row, 3 in a row, or certainly don't want to see Bucks Chiefs as the Super Bowl, which a lot of people are predicting. Because we've seen that, so I like to see the variety. So seeing, the Bucks lose first round would be great. I think Fates has nailed it on his head. Like the Eagles' best chance, and and it's probably going to be well documented for both teams, is on the run game and getting Jalen Hurts, who's been a very effective runner this season. But it's also getting the running backs as well involved and giving them options. And the Bucks are definitely more vulnerable than they probably were and heading into the playoffs last season. But yeah, it's going to be hard to sort of back against Tom Brady, conditions that'll, nice Florida conditions for them to get their, pass game going and their weapons, the likes of Gronk and Mike Evans. Even with the loss of, Godwin and Antonio Brown, they've still got, and Fournette, they've still got plenty of options.
Yeah, well, I did see Fournette trending back for this game as well. So I think
is he looking back? So
yeah,
that's big for them. He was playing very well before he got injured.
And the other thing you pull out of that Jets game with the Bucks almost lost was Brady just stepping it up another gear when he had to. And when you're going into playoff games and do or die games, that's the sort of stuff that he's got in his pocket. And I'm not convinced that Jalen Hurts has that, or he certainly hasn't proved that he's got that. So I think in a game like this, it's hard to look past the Bucks. I'm sorry, James.
Hey, it's fine. Look, next week we're either going to have I told you so's because the Bucks won, or like very I told you so's because the Eagles won. So
that's right. It's good to have disagreement. We like that. Well, let's move on to the next game. We'll definitely be starting with you, Dave, on this one. Your Dallas Cowboys taking on the San Francisco 49ers. What do you make of this?
Yes. This is, as a Cowboys fan, this matchup makes me very nervous. I think the San Francisco 49ers match up very well against the Cowboys. That's for me. I'm definitely not confident that I'll be backing the Cowboys, and I think but that they've proven in the last few weeks they've been sort of so inconsistent. Probably the last month their offense hasn't really been firing. They need to get that going against a very stingy sort of defense that the 49ers have. Nick Bosa, he's going to be out for Dak all game, and I can see this going either way. Probably being probably 3 points in it either way, and probably go right down to the wire. So I'll back the Cowboys, but I certainly won't be doing that with full of confidence. I probably would have preferred them to be facing the Eagles or the Cardinals, despite losing recently to the Cardinals. That's kind of how I see that 49ers matchup. I think if you look back in the last sort of 4 or 5 games, I think the 49ers have won most of those.
I feel like we're in a bit of a twilight zone at the moment because I'm going to compliment the Cowboys now. Honestly, like looking back at the 49ers last week, like that was a must-win game for the 49ers. They looked awful, like absolutely awful. Jimmy G for the first half and a bit, must-win game against the Rams, just absolutely dropped the ball. Everyone was like, this is Jimmy G's last game here for the 49ers. And then along comes the fourth quarter and you just look stellar and in overtime. I think the Cowboys as well are going to be pumped up after a huge five touchdown performance from Prescott. against obviously that resting depleted Eagles team over the weekend. So I have Cowboys winning this by 17.
By what?
17. I think they're absolutely
me,
just going to crush them.
Yeah. See, for me, like, and this is pull my hair out stuff as a Cowboy fan, but they've only looked decent in the last probably 5 games against Washington, depleted Washington team, and then rested Eagles team. So two games that you can't really they brought up 15 both times, but when in the other games when they were kind of like, well, win and you can probably get a higher seeding, so kind of must win games for the purposes of improving your the ease of schedule. The offense just didn't turn up.
Well,
it really comes. It'll be interesting. Obviously, I'm hoping that they do, and Dak, throws for 400 yards and multiple touchdowns. But yeah, I just know the 49ers have had success with them in the past, so that's where I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah, and I think if the 49ers can come out and play like the Broncos did in that game earlier in the season, see, it's all coming full circle now, can come out and play like they did earlier in the season, they will absolutely shut them down, because that game was embarrassing for the Cowboys.
Remind me that was that a shutout? Was it like 20-something nil, or was that?
It was pretty close to a shutout. I'd have to check what that is, but
from memory, it was like 26 nil or something like that from the Broncos.
I think they may have got a large. Yeah, it was 30-16. I think, from memory, though, you're right, Dave. It was right up until the last kind of fourth quarter.
Cowboys scored all their points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I don't think Dak was in for a lot of that from memory. No, he was.
So it was a shutout until the match was over.
Yeah,
kind of.
And that was at AT&T Stadium, I think, from memory as well. So very interesting game. The Broncos had just got rid of Von Miller and traded Von Miller to the Rams at that point. So so I don't know. We'll see. Defense obviously can win that game, but I still have the Cowboys.
Do you think Trayvon Diggs matches up? Obviously there's been a lot of talk around Trayvon Diggs and all his intercepts this season, and then you've got Deebo Samuel, who's probably one of the top wide receiver. He's playing wide receiver, but he's getting a lot of running back type. I'm loving the sort of plays that they're bringing in, where he's sort of taking the ball from the snap. Do you think Trayvon Diggs is up against Deebo, or do you think they avoid that matchup?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They obviously play Deebo all over the field, like you said, in those kind of sweeping running back positions. But I don't know. It's going to be how fast those Micah Parsons can get past that line and get to Jimmy Garoppolo, because if they get the pressure on him, he's not going to be doing a lot. I think.
I've probably got more faith in Dak than Jimmy. If you're putting it just on a straight head to head, I think Dak probably pips that. But yeah. It's sort of certainly shapes up to be a good game. Look forward to it.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel had passing yards, rushing yards, and receiving yards in the win over the Rams. So they just need to plug him into the defense, and it'll be the four-way player. Well, sticking in the 49ers division, because the final playoff match in the NFC, Rams Cardinals, 1-1 on the season so far this year. The Rams won the most recent clash just before the new year, I think 30-23. I think that one was. The Cardinals, a lot was made of their fast start to the season, and they slowed up quite a bit. And the Rams, they've been pretty solid all throughout the season. What do we think of this divisional matchup making its way into the playoffs?
Yeah, I honestly don't have a lot to say about this one. I think the Cardinals have been terrible since DeAndre Hopkins went down. And quite frankly, that's where their offense just completely stopped. And they were an exciting offense to watch for a lot of it. So I think Rams easily take this one out and just march on.
Dave?
Yeah. Cardinals are a weird one. I think Thwaites is right. I think when Hopkins went down, and it wasn't even, thinking of this from a fantasy point of view, I don't think Hopkins was putting up crazy big numbers. it's just the amount of attention a player like him takes, that just opens up, it opens up plays for whether it's James Conner, whether it's Christian Kirk, other guys in the team benefit by having that star wide receiver in the game. So I think even if someone was to say, he wasn't even putting up 100-yard games or whatever, it's more that he's getting the double plays, sometimes triple plays, and and also then converting when it's crunch, some incredible catches in the end zone. So yeah, it is very hard to sort of replace that. The Cardinals have this crazy away record this year, 8-1 away from home. I don't know how
I don't think you can read much.
You probably can't. You probably can't. I mean, they're going to have to probably play away. They'll have to play away from home for the rest of the, in the run into the Super Bowl if they were to make that. I could see them. Kyler Murray is, as a stud quarterback. Him running. He's got options like, with his feet. I think he's, if he can get that going, he can really kind of second guess defenses. So, for me, it's a bit of a flip of a coin, but I probably would go and lean towards the Rams. I think they're just probably a more complete side right now. And what will be interesting if they do get knocked out with the Chargers, obviously not making the playoffs by losing to the Raiders last week. LA Rams are the only chance to try and repeat last season where we had the Bucks playing Super Bowl at home. So it's the Rams. It's on the Rams to try and have a run here to try and get there and have a home Super Bowl. Not that
they can get past the charging Eagles, they might have a shot at it. Who knows?
Look, and and we haven't touched a lot on defense apart from really talking about the 49ers, but like Jalen Ramsey's at the Rams. We've obviously got Von Miller, who has had maybe a not so stellar start in his Rams career. And we've got Aaron Donald. So I don't know, if I'm Kyler Murray, I'm probably having to run a lot because, Jalen Ramsey and co are shutting stuff down, but also I'm probably running right towards Von Miller and Aaron Donald, which he got banged up earlier in the season. So I don't know. We'll see.
You touched on this fantasy thing and measuring players through fantasy. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the problems. I got into football through fantasy, and so now I just look at I judge output based on fantasy, and I look at the Rams. I know they've got a good defense, but their DSC was not that good this year, and so I'm like, the Rams don't have a great defense. But that's the way you measure it, I guess. I would probably say the Rams. I think they've looked better in recent times. I think the Cardinals have been pretty limp for over a month now. So I would pick the Rams to go through there. So if we look back, I think we're all looking at the Cowboys to win. We're a bit split on the Bucks and the Eagles. We're all unanimous on the Rams Cardinals. So looking back at the entire playoffs, that Bucks Eagles game is the one that's been the most. I
think that's probably reflective. We're across the board there. We're probably, we're leaning towards the teams that have won their division they're in that top four, and they've probably been the more consistent for longer this season. Compared to all those wildcard teams, which a bunch of them, only sort of secured their spots late and on week.
We're also doing that.
10 or 18 now.
We're also doing a little bit of our fantasy football stuff as well here. We're getting very excited by teams that are very exciting on offense. Yes. So I will definitely go out there and admit that. Yeah. But yeah, I still think we're all right. Apart from that Bucks game, I
do hope we're wrong about that because it's kind of boring if we come back next week and we're all just we're all right. All the favourites won. Yeah, I would love to see some upsets. I'd love to see the Steelers knock out the Chiefs and do some stuff there, or the Patriots get up over the Bills. But plenty of football on this weekend. But let's move on to our third topic and talk about half the teams in the league who do not have football to go this season. So we're going to touch on those teams, and I want to see from you guys which non-playoff team do you think is in the best position to take a big step forward and potentially make the playoffs in 2022-23? Which is the most exciting and well primed to make some off-season moves and make a real push next season?
Yeah. So as I was kind of like researching this topic a bit, I think there's just a huge amount to unpack here. So I'm going to go on a bit of a rant for a bit, but there's been so many coaching and GM changes in the last week, obviously, which happens after the regular season. Vikings fired their head coach and GMs. Giants fired their head coach and GM. Thank you. Finally, Chicago did the same. Denver fired their head coach. Jags obviously got rid of Urban Meyer earlier in the season. Dolphins moved on from Flores, which I think was a bit interesting there. We'll keep an eye on and see what happens with Houston, Seattle, and Carolina over the next kind of week. But I think for a bunch of those teams, like it really depends who's at quarterback. There's a lot of question marks around quarterbacks in the offseason. We've got Rodgers, we've got Cousins, we've got Carr, we've got Watson, we've got Tua, we've got Wilson, we've got Winston, we've got Jimmy G, we've got Baker Mayfield. So there's a lot going on. The most team ready, I think, to have a quarterback plug into their system, I think it's the Broncos. Wouldn't surprise me to see Kirk Cousins go there, to go to the Broncos and put them in the playoffs. Teams, I think, that are quarterback needy in the offseason, we've got the Vikings. If they move on from Cousins, we've got Washington, we've got the Giants, we've got Denver, and then we've got potentially Cleveland. Obviously, I think the easy picks for this, Ravens and the Chargers. I mean,
yeah, I was almost going to say anyone but the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because I think we all know the Chargers are trending upwards and they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, agree.
Saying the Ravens then as your other one?
Yeah, I mean, like the Ravens just kind of feels like the easy one to pick to get into the playoffs next year. I think, depending again what happens with the Steelers. Steelers are another quarterback hungry team. And then, I just think Lamar's back. I'm not the hugest fan of Lamar, but I think they're back. Their defense gives them that. They can pull in some more weapons and then just see what happens. They got a full running game next year. So, yeah.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously for me, the easiest answer was definitely the Chargers. That was 100%. I think they're the most complete team. They got really impacted probably more than most by COVID. That hit them at the wrong times and, kind of caused a few, played a part in some losses that sort of derailed their campaign. And they still nearly made it. But yeah, with the likes of Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, and obviously, very good quarterback in Justin Herbert, who's only probably going to get better. I think they are a team that could, do very well next year, not just make the playoffs. I think they could be challenging for their divisional title. Another one for me, and I know that this will cause a bit of a stir because, it probably depends on what they do with their quarterback situation. But I think Miami Dolphins, I actually would like to see them stick with Tua. For them, they've got to basically, and they'll probably make the decision this year, does he have enough of a ceiling, that they want to sort of take them to be their franchise quarterback, to be their guy for the next decade? I think they should at least give him another chance to do that. He's had some injury issues, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they fired the coach, right?
Well, I was going to say, do you think the firing of the coach is that all an indication that maybe they want to stick with their quarterback, and it was one of those ones where we, stick with the coach or the quarterback?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you're going to have a new coach, probably, you'd assume decided pretty soon, and it's going to be how their chemistry is between coach and quarterback, and maybe he's got views, and maybe it's someone that's got a relationship with one of these, Derek Carr's, Russell Wilson's, Watson's that are, potential free agents or going to be on the market. So, I think that definitely plays a part. You see that often. But whether there's Watson, whether one of these, sort of proven players comes in or Tua, I think Miami get a lot of first round picks. I think they might have 3 over the next couple of drafts. I think they've kind of, they've definitely got some collateral there to try and build, around, a quarterback that they have. I could see them. They were probably a little disappointing this year, but I could definitely see them being, challenging and being stronger next year.
Are these teams, do you think, are Russell Wilson away from being one of the top sides? Like, if you plug Russell Wilson into the Miami Dolphins, are they a Super Bowl favorite, playoff favorite?
If you plug Russell Wilson into the Broncos, I think this was coming back to my bold prediction, which was I thought the Giants were the same as well. If they made a major shakeup at quarterback, they got rid of the head coach, they got rid of the GM. Maybe they're all right. I don't know. Realistically, I'm just kind of sick of New York teams, to be honest. And especially the fact that they've made so many coaching changes over the last 6 years. But yeah, I think there are a lot of teams. Like the Steelers, we didn't really touch on. Like the Steelers, obviously are in the playoffs this year. We've got a guest star in the background, Gus the dog.
Gus the dog's made an appearance. She's you may see her jump onto the couch.
Wants to be on the video. But like Najee Harris is at the Steelers. They've got Chase Claypool. They've got Deontay Johnson. Like that's a great offense. Plug a quarterback in there, and you're happy. So we'll see.
Yeah, I struggled with, so when I was looking at all the teams, like on the NFC in particular, I think I was struggling to. It's hard to predict teams when you just don't see any. Like, I don't necessarily rate the quarterbacks, so it's hard to see what they do. Like, say someone like the Panthers, they could obviously McCaffrey needs to be fit for them to have any chance for a start. At Atlanta Falcons, obviously Matt Ryan's getting well into his twilight. So what's going to happen with Calvin Ridley? So there's teams, New Orleans Saints, like I don't necessarily, and the Vikings as well. When you got Kirk Cousins who's potentially moving on, it's just who are they going to? It's hard to predict if they're going to be good without even knowing. That's something we'll have to revisit when we have some of these trades and understand what the squad's going to look like in the next season to sort of feel like whether they are contenders or not.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun off season regardless.
Yeah,
a lot of head coaching vacancies, a lot of quarterbacks on the move, and there'll be trades, free agents, lots to talk about.
Oh, Gus, you want to come say hi?
The dog's looking for attention. It's that high pitched. I think she likes Thwaites more, which is she is.
There we are. Special treat for anyone that watches the video.
Yeah. Let's switch across to the NBA now. About midway through the season, trade deadline approaching. Still lots to talk about. We talk a lot about the Nets and the Lakers and the Warriors and these teams, but I think one of the great things about the NBA this year is I feel like we might be in this sort of sweet spot where we're getting this sort of old guard of superstars who are still very competitive, and we're getting these young stars, the likes of your Devin Bookers and your Ja Morants at Memphis, who are good enough to be considered superstars now as well. And so you're getting a lot of competitive teams. So I guess, outside of those sort of established top teams, what I want to ask you guys is who are you loving to watch at the moment?
Well, Gus just made a great point, which is it's the Grizzlies. Grizzlies is a young team. I think it's good. It's not quite great. Yeah, exactly, Gus. We know they're not quite great yet, but the trade deadline is going to be very interesting to watch this team, I think, with the amount of picks and assets that they have. I think if they go after another star to play along Ja, I think they're going to be great. I really, really do. But the problem is, at the moment in the West, is that they're sitting in a division with the Golden State Warriors, Utah, and the Suns. And at the moment, I don't think they could take any of those teams in a 7-game series. I really don't. So I'd obviously love to see them get in the playoffs. I'd love to see Steven Adams back in the playoffs. But time will tell, and bring on that trade deadline for that team, because I think it's going to be super exciting. What do you think, Dave? I've got another one as well, but another team that I'm excited about. But obviously, I want to hear what you think. Is there a team out there that you're super pumped?
Well, the Grizzlies on a 10-match winning streak. It's they've been incredible watching them. And
they're nine wins, I think, out of the last 10. I think there was one that they dropped. They obviously play the Net. Wait, is it the Nets? No, they're not playing the Nets tonight.
No, the Bulls are playing the Nets. Just started right now. Well, it'll be finished by the time you're listening to this point.
I just looked it up though, because I thought it was the same as well what you just said. But they won the 10th game.
Wow.
Last night. So 10-game winning streak, and that includes the Warriors, that includes the Nets. It's not
incredible.
like they're taking down just the Rockets, Thunder, Pelicans, Magic and Pistons. It's some good teams in there, and Ja Morant he's a true superstar, and I think you're right. Like if they can get a little bit of help for him there, that's what he'll need to be for them to truly be contenders. As you pointed out, best of 5, best of 7 series, you can't it's going to be very difficult to beat some of these established teams that have 2, 3, 4 stars. But they've been great to watch on the West. Now the other one who has probably over the last sort of 10 games has the other best record. They've only dropped 1 game in the last 10 games. Is the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. We're playing. We're doing the same teams here, aren't we?
We are, but they're definitely
What about Cleveland? I'll talk about Chicago, then we can talk about Cleveland. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I think with Chicago, there was 2 games. I think it was about a week ago. 2 games back to back where DeMar DeRozan nailed the most awkward looking, buzzer beating threes. They weren't just your normal fluent 3 shots. They were, because it was only a second or 2 to go, and he just had to get his shot away, and landed them both from some distance. And that's sort of when you're running hot. You've got the rub of the green, but he's been doing that sort of all season, and they've got a good squad around him, and they're fun to watch. They'll be, I'm sure they'll be there deep into the playoffs. And as fans, and for us living in Brooklyn, and obviously supporting the Nets, and probably looking to go down to sort of hopefully some Eastern Conference, semi-finals, finals. It's every chance there'll be Chicago in that mix as well.
Yeah, totally. I think you brought up a lot of fantastic points about Chicago. I think it's going to be interesting to watch this game against the Nets. It's obviously going on behind us right now. We're recording this week on a Wednesday. But they're doing great on both sides of the ball. Like you said, they've won 9 out of the last 10. But I don't know if the streak continues. And that's what I'm really excited about, because the next games they've got is obviously the Nets tonight. Then they go up against Golden State Warriors. They go up against Boston. They go up against Memphis, Cleveland, and then the Bucks before it starts getting a lot easier for them. And that is a tough run, but it'll be pretty interesting to see how they go, I think. I'm excited. This is why I like watching them at the moment. They're obviously, like the Grizzlies, they had that nice run. But will that streak continue? What does it look like? And again, what does the trade deadline look for them? But they're a lot of fun to watch when they're not playing the Nets.
I think as well, as New Zealanders, so Memphis clearly should have a lot of New Zealanders' interest purely just from the Steve Adams factor. Now you've got, you can watch them, and you've got this young superstar in John Morant, but you've probably kind of got that initial interest because you're sort of following a Kiwi interest there and Steve Adams. Now with the Bulls, I think for all of us that were born in the 80s or even early 90s in Simon's case, mid-90s, some of us aren't that young, but yeah, for us in that sort of we grew up, there were probably, I remember sort of in the 90s, there were kind of only a few teams that sort of everyone seemed to support. It was, maybe the Charlotte Hornets, Orlando Magic, and definitely the Chicago Bulls. They were a team, and then you had, during the pandemic, they released that ESPN doco on Jordan, the Last Dance, and that kind of probably brought a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. But the Bulls have always kind of had that, popularity, through Jordan, Pippen, Rodman. But since that era, since the late 90s, they really haven't been that good, and haven't had that much success since then. And it's, you can sort of get excited and get behind them, just sort of having that nostalgic sort of like for them from back in the day.
Yeah, I want to give a bit of kudos to the big Kiwi there. What we're talking about, these exciting NBA teams. He's put together another very strong season with Memphis.
Yeah, and good on him.
He's done well for himself out of his NBA career. He's a good he's a solid player. But the fact is, he's played on a competitive team pretty much every season he's played. He's earned plenty of money. He's always got good contracts. And the Pelicans, didn't go so well down there for him. And I think there was maybe 2 seasons at OKC where they weren't great, but I think just one actually. But for the most part, he's been on good teams this year. He's career high numbers and assists. I think his offensive rebounds are up there.
Career high numbers and assists because maybe he's not playing with Westbrook anymore.
Maybe, yeah, and that's probably helping his defensive rebound numbers as well. Actually, you do see when Westbrook left the Thunder, that Steven Adams' defensive rebound shot up.
Adams is a real role player. You kind of looked like that maybe he would sort of be sort of pushed out of the NBA for his lack of offensive ability. Because a lot of the big men sort of coming through kind of offered that, and that's always been kind of a weakness. But at Memphis, he's not expected. He's not needing to score any points really. He might get a few tap-ins. I don't think he gets 10 points that often, but he's picking up huge numbers of rebounds, and that's his role. Be big, be annoying, get in the way, and then let the other guys do their thing. So yeah, it's a real role player that's been effective, as you say.
Yeah, well, shaping up as an exciting second half of the NBA season. Well, let's talk about the fifth and final topic on today's 3rd and 5 podcast. And big news out of New York over the weekend was the legalization of sports betting. I think you can make a small fortune just signing up for the free bets on all the betting agencies. You can do quite well out of it. But we wanted to bring this into the show. We may do it every week or relatively frequently anyway. We'll see how things go. But we wanted to all place a $5 multi. 3 outcomes is all we're looking for. And we'll keep track of it. Maybe we see who makes the most profit throughout the year, or probably in our case the biggest loss. But we wanted to go around the room and make some multis, and that'll give us something interesting to follow over the next week and check back in on next week. So let's start with you, Thwaite, picking 3 picks this week. Where are you going?
Yeah, I didn't know about the $5 rule before.
Oh, you can put up as much money as you want.
And before I jump into this, there's just one quick more thing I want to say about NBA teams. Obviously, today it was announced that Damian Lillard is having core surgery, and he's basically out 6 to 8 weeks. Going to be interesting to see what's happening with that trade deadline coming up in him. So again, going back to some bold predictions, I think he's probably gone and they go into full rebound mode, but we'll rebuild mode, but we'll see. But from my multi of the week, I went Bengals minus 5.5. I took the Rams to win at about $1.50. And then I took the Eagles. I played it a bit safe in my multi and took the point start here. So I got them plus 8.5. So all in all, I was paying about $5.50 for every dollar you put on there. So that's where my money's going this week.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm going to go a few outsiders. I'm going to pick New England to beat Buffalo. Just a boring head-to-head to start things off. Then I'm going to say Pittsburgh to get the first touchdown against Kansas City.
Oh, I like that.
Which feels a bit bold, but I think Big Ben's going to come out firing. Pittsburgh will be pretty fired up to prove their quarterback wrong as well, who said they were just out there to have fun, and they will have fun. I think Kansas City will win comfortably in the end, but Pittsburgh to score the first touchdown. And then I'm going to go over to the English Premier League and pick Chelsea to upset Man City. I think they're paying about $6 to beat Man City. And I don't hate this Chelsea Man City matchup. I think Thomas Tuchel is really good in these individual matchups with his tactics, and so I think he can get this Chelsea side firing. There's been a bit of stuff swirling around with Romelu Lukaku, and so I think this Chelsea side could be good for a bounce back win over Man City. So I can't remember the total odds, but I think $5 with all of those is going to pay out something like $215.
Oh wow!
So
that was very conservative.
Yeah, that was pretty. I like
it, and that's what we want,
Yeah, I mean, when you're putting on these $5 multis, you kind of want to have a few outsiders, and it's a bit of a surprise if it's a miracle if they all come off, but it's a bit of fun. Dave, have you got 3?
Yeah, so for my 3-leg multi, I've got first up. I'm going to go the Raiders Bengals game, and I'm going to go for Joey Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns, so two touchdowns or more, and that's where the line is there. Second one, Patriots Bills, going for total points unders, so the line there is 44. For me, as I sort of talked about earlier, it's minus 20 degrees, the wind chill. It's, yes, the teams are used to playing in those conditions, but it's going to be cold. It's not going to be pretty. So I'm actually surprised to see the line at 44. So I think the unders is a good value there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is going to be, so those both games are on Saturday, and I'm going to no doubt win those, and then have to wait all the way till Monday night.
As we always do with our multis, right?
Wondering whether he's going to eat this week.
To be fair, whenever I used to do, like NRL multis, if I ever put in Friday night, you should never put it in NRL in general. It's so hard to pick. But if I ever did a Friday night, tagged on with, say, Saturday Super Rugby games or whatever, I would always lose that first leg, and then you just have to double down and bet again. So then,
we do not provide betting advice. Yeah.
No, and then so for this Cardinals-Rams game, I do see this being really close, and so to get me some value in these in my multi, I've gone Cardinals halftime, and then the Rams at full time. So yeah, as I sort of talked about earlier, I think the Rams will get up, but I can see this being a close one. So that gets me value. I think that's about 650. So I think remind me, I think that's $5 bet turns into about $100. So 21.
Nice. Yeah. And you know what I loved about both your bets? You went completely against your picks to win our playoff games, right?
That is the only way to gamble.
Yeah. Correct. Completely question everything.
Winning both ways. Hedge. Well, that'll be fun. Look, we'll check in next week, see how we go. We'll obviously be, swimming in dollar bills after all our multis come in.
Don't be afraid for listeners, to get in behind, our bets. If you like it, then bet responsibly. But
bet responsibly by all means. But follow along.
Yeah,
get involved.
And if you want to send some abuse to Dave for being a Cowboys fan, hit us up on social media.
We do need to plug the socials. That is the thing we need to do. We're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as well. This video will now be on YouTube. So just search Third and Five Podcasts, and you can abuse one of us, all of us, whoever you want.
Yeah. Take your pick, spin the wheel.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Another good episode. Hey, did you see Netflix is making a PGA Golf Drive to Survive? Drive to Survive, like the Formula One documentary.
Yeah.
They're doing a PGA tour behind the scenes.
Really?
You'll be right on
that.
That's huge. That's huge, yeah.
That's huge. Well, mainly because there's a lot of people I've spoken to and met in the last couple of years.
In your golfing circles. So is there anyone under the age of 50 in those circles, Dave? Or
I'll play a random round of golf, and there'll be a sort of similar-aged American lad, and he'll be. I remember meeting one, and he was about to go to Austin to see the Formula One there, and he sort of told me, he's like, a year ago I didn't even follow it, but that Netflix doco got him into it, and he's now so into it that he's him and a group of lads were all going there, and so I think that's huge for the sort of PGA in terms of probably getting exposure to new fans that currently aren't interested.
Funnily enough, I had the same exact experience with an American, Dave, where they've turned around and got into Formula One because of that. I think Daniel Ricciardo was on one of the first ones. So yeah,
I think that Formula One series has been a hit, and it's great for fans of all sports because the success it's had is going to mean that it's a better investment for the leagues and the networks to do more of this sort of stuff. And so hopefully we get, football, and we had those Amazon Prime series, but hopefully we just get more and more fly in the wall sort of stuff around the leagues. It's good stuff. Very quick last point. Go on then.
We will have a chance to be head coaches or GMs of teams next week in the NFL. So fingers crossed.
I'll be a GM. I'll take GM.
If one of us drops off, that's where we are. But yeah, I'll let you wrap up now.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening in or watching in on YouTube if you've sat through all of that. And thanks, Dave, for calling in from Minnesota. Guys.
No worries.
Always a pleasure. Never a chore. We'll talk to you next week on Third and Five Podcast.
See you later.